Okay, just a quick video here. Take a look. This is called Choice Back Rib Fingers Cryovac. Just ignore the Cryovac and the Choice. The Choice is the grade. Cryovac is the package it comes in, which is this vacuum pack bag. Um, it's actually better if it comes like this because that means it's been aged, somewhat aged in the bag. You can keep it up to well, I found that you can keep it for quite a while. I won't say how long, but it's always a good idea to use the best used by date. Okay, but from my experience of working in the meat industry, it can last quite a while if it's packed correctly. But anyway, the reason why I want to point this out is this is the meat that is between we call it plate ribs. It's the rib cage of the cow, and what happens is they they normally, what we used to do back in the days, we used to cut around the bones, and then you grind this up for a hamburger because it had a nice blend of fat and meat. Um, it has a lot of connective tissues, or gristle, what people would call. But this is the exact part of the meat that you would eat if you were cooking beef ribs, the big bone ones. Okay, beef barbecue ribs. These are the big, huge ribs that you have to have like two hands to hold on to it. You know, the ribs are really, really big. They can be as long as, I've seen them as long as 1.5 feet. So they can get pretty big. So this is the meat in between the bones. Okay. So what they usually do is there's a layer on the plate. There's usually a layer of fat, and they remove that, and then there's meat and gristle in between the ribs. And what they do is they pull out as much of the gristle as they can, and then they cut in between the bones. And this is the part where it's cut in between the bones. Okay, they call it fingers because, as you can see, there's strips of meat. Now, in the old days, we never used to use this cut unless you special ordered it. Like sometimes people would make barbecue ribs and they wanted the big bones. But generally speaking, you wanted to use the short ribs. But now with short ribs running anywhere from $9 to $15 a pound, they've taken the need to go to the plate ribs. Which was at my time was you couldn't even give it away at 25 cents a pound. The box cost more than the meat. A lot of people used it for dog food. It was good meat, but the thing was you had to cook it a long time to make it tender. Anyway, getting back, these are starting to show up on cooking shows, and I'm sure you can find it. They're called fingers, okay? And what do you call, you would cook them or braise them. That would be the best method. But there's also one little known fact: you can also cook them barbecue style, Korean barbecue style, like Korean short ribs. It'll be a little bit more chewy than Korean short ribs, but Korean short ribs are chewy to begin with, so because it's all the meat in between the ribs, right? So it's the same, it's similar, it's not the same. This is the big bone, and the Korean short ribs are the small backbones. Okay, but because of the price nowadays, they've started using this, and at this one it's $4.63 a pound. And at the time we purchased this at the store, a regular just chuck was going for $7 a pound. So I mean, granted, a chuck is like pretty much 25 to 35% fat and beef, right? And especially the boneless chuck, there's no bones in it. Well, this doesn't have any bones either because it's boneless. So you're getting a little bit more fat, but you're getting the tastier meat because anything right next to the bone is always going to be tastier. But you gotta be careful how you cook it, and the best method is braising or slow cooking, like in a a crock pot or something, and it'll make it real tender. So you would use it like stew meat or something like that. But if you want to do it Korean style or even teriyaki style, you would cut it up in the size you want. Like, you could cut it up in maybe 1.5 inch strips, or I wouldn't go with this whole piece. I mean, you would marinate the whole piece, but then you would cut it up in smaller pieces as you use it. Or marinate the whole strip and then cook it on the grill as one piece, and then when you serve it, cut it up in small pieces, bite-sized pieces about that big. Okay, this thing will shrink a little bit, so they'll look like cooked fingers, really. But they'll be real tender because there's a lot of fat. You can see there's a lot of marbling and fat in it. And they do try to peel off as much of the gristle as possible, or in this case, they call it the skin. There's a layer of what they call silver or skin. It's just part of the kind of like the connective tissue and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is basically fat and marbled meat in between. Okay, so you would barbecue it by soaking it in your favorite barbecue sauce, preferably the teriyaki style or the Korean Kalbi style. And then, though you could use other styles like the Doro Wat or the Ethiopian style, so with the heavy spices. You could even do a spice rub like they do with brisket. Just watch out on the salt because it might get a little too salty, because these are smaller pieces, and you would coat the whole thing all the way around. So I would go easy on the salt. You marinate it for overnight, and then you would barbecue it like on a grill or something like that quickly. You probably don't want to overcook it. Probably medium rare. And I mean, if you do go well done, you'll find that it's going to be really, really chewy. Okay? Anyway, quick video. You want to learn how to cook this, just pick up any boneless short rib recipe, or boneless Kalbi recipe, or even braised. You can even make Chinese style braised brisket with Chinese spice and whatnot. But there's a lot of recipes how to cook this kind of stuff. It's just not called this. They usually use brisket or some other cut of meat, because originally you couldn't get this unless you requested it special from the butcher. But I see now that this is like about the 4th time I've seen it pop up, and especially during the holiday season, because they run out of short ribs, because everybody's cooking short ribs now. That caught on. I remember back in the day when that was considered dog food, right? I mean, nothing wrong with it, but it was a tough piece of meat and nobody knew how to cook it. Now with specialized Oriental and Korean style cooking or barbecuing, we've learned how to make it more palatable. Okay, but you always have the standby braised. You could even go with the French style, braised in wine. Ooh, Burgundy. Okay, make a great what was that, bechamel? Forgive my French. Anyway, have fun. If you see it in a case, check the price, and compare it to. I would compare it to chuck, okay, or even short ribs, because this would be considered boneless short ribs. Okay, so have fun. Be safe on the holidays.